Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds, Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weed from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after a game that, thank goodness, necessitated the Winnipeg Jets opening up out of the turtle shell that they have been playing in for I don't know how many games now. We talked about it on the last show. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Why don't you hop on in my Toyota 2007 Toyota Yaris. Hop on and let's go for a drive and we will talk about it. This game started off the first two periods. I mean, this was, I described it as, I don't know, Ken, hop in if you have something. Oh, Mike's not going? Okay. Looks like we have issues here with the microphone. I don't know why we would have issues. Maybe Ken should jump in here because I don't have. Oh, wait 1 second. I've got it. I've got this figured out. Oh, come on, please. Wow, that's fun in real.
Okay. Hopefully that's better. Thanks, Ken, for saving the show from the green room. Let's start over again. Hop into the Toyota 2007 Toyota Yaris. Hop in, we'll talk about this game. First two periods of that were hard to watch. They were really hard to watch. I thought Murat Atesh captured this fairly well when he had this to say. Somewhere in the building, there's a kid who is getting to see an NHL game for the first time, and I hope they're having the absolute time of their life. Otherwise, this particular game has been plodding and disorganized, and it makes me pine for the Olympics. Well put, Murat. Well put. It's been hard, like I'd said, to come back out of the Olympics and see that style of hockey. And then, it's been a little something to come back and see this plodding style of play that the Winnipeg Jets have chosen to play down the stretch here. Very glad for the Jim Pattison Toyota on region opening drive here that the Winnipeg Jets were forced to open things up, because it started to look like the Winnipeg Jets of yesteryear, getting in on the forecheck, grinding teams down, trying to generate, hey, how about this? Trying to generate scoring opportunities. What a novel idea. It was great to finally see it happening. Jets were forced into it, clearly trying to get back into that game. Give credit to the team. When they started playing like that, it looked extremely good. I would describe the style of the Chicago Blackhawks in this game as being something like if we were, Mike Malott, Jeff Malott's brother, was interviewed at the game, UFC fighter who's going to headline the UFC event coming up here in Winnipeg. Since we're talking fights, let's use a little bit of a fighter's analogy. Chicago's strategy in this game seemed something like, in the first round, the second round, third round, that they thought that they were up, at the beginning of the third round on the cards. And then, some people say it's a rope-a-dope kind of thing. This seemed like Chicago curled up in the corner and turtled and hoped that they wouldn't be bludgeoned into losing on the scorecard in this game. It was a rough one. It was a rough one, I thought, for the Chicago Blackhawks, who at some point just decided not even to flip the puck to center ice, to just keep icing it over and over and over again. Let's give credit to the Winnipeg Jets and say they pushed them so hard in this game that they tired them out. They sure looked tired by the end of it. But the Winnipeg Jets clearly finding, with about 6 minutes into the third period, finally finding a game that's something to kind of be excited about, to be, for the crowd to get behind. It was a huge pop when they tied up that game. Great play drawn up by Davis Payne that Cole Perfetti said, the goal and the execution of it was very, very close to what was drawn up. So, an assist to the coaches in this situation, one of many candidates for the got you covered plays of the game here, but an important one for the Winnipeg Jets as they come out. And in the end on this night, it's all about them basically needing to get that win, because yes, there was a lot of loss. They gain a point up on the Chicago Blackhawks. The Nashville Predators lost on this night. I think we're going to see the San Jose Sharks. Well, I think they're right in it with the Montreal Canadiens right now, but the Edmonton Oilers win, and so too do the Mammoth. So in the end, this is one of the reasons that highlights just how hard of a go it is here for the Winnipeg Jets. They can't be giving away games to the likes of the Chicago Blackhawks or earlier the Vancouver Canucks or even a team like the San Jose Sharks, which in the end they did. But this is, with a game Tampa Bay Lightning team rolling into town. These are the kind of games that the Jets need to pull off, and in the end, they do pull this one off. So, anyways, that is my take before we bring in Ken and wrap up the Jim Pattison Toyota on Region opening drive. And let me tell you, finding the right vehicle can feel like a big decision, but the team at Jim Pattison Toyota on Region, they make it easy. They'll help you find the perfect fit from their wide selection of new and pre-owned Toyotas, all backed by great service and honest advice. So if you're ready for something new, stop by Jim Pattison Toyota on Region or start your search online at jptoyotaregent.com. All right, time to bring in the man with the best music in the business, folks. You know his name. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, these are my favorite kind of shows for a reason. One of them because, when there's an exciting comeback like that, the crowd gets into it. You showed one of the commenters saying, let's go. Two, because I get to be the Vittorio Rossi man while you sit there in your travel clothes, just like a regular old guy. I get to be this guy. You get to be the regular guy. But if you want to be this guy, the guy above the regular guy, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi, walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will take you from regular to spectacular, if I do say so myself. Ken, you got a good look at that game. I'm not sure how much different you thought it was than I did, but take it away.
Well, a game always looks different on the telephone screen than it does in person, so certainly going to defer to you a little bit more than usual, but, I always trust you. Yeah, I mean...
Trust RBSR dash PK2 HD, who very much felt the way that I did.
Yes, one high danger chance. I mean, I texted you after the second, and I'm like, wow, one high danger chance for the Jets. Now they had 6 in the third period at 5-on-5, so they definitely found a way to crank it up. But I would say that Scott Arniel sounded like Scott Arniel provided the pristine roofing wake up call.
There you go.
Maybe according to what again. Cole Perfetti didn't come out and say it, but he did say that there was a discussion with the coaching staff and the players. So
yes.
Either way, the Jets did get the pristine roofing and siding wake-up call. So I'm going to cut the buffet short for that.
Time then to tell you that you need to give North and Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give your home the Pristine Roofing and siding wake-up call, and you will be as happy as the Winnipeg Jets were to get the Pristine Roofing and siding wake-up call from their head coach and come out of this with the 2 points.
Sorry, I should have said just stalled at the buffet. I guess paused maybe.
Yeah, paused.
Quickly, two things really stand out, Sean. I mean, to me, Mark Scheifele is a guy who needed a big game. We've talked about this a lot. He's been their most consistent offensive performer by a landslide. Kyle Connor's been consistent in his own way, but I mean, Mark. We've talked about this before. This was another example where Mark had gone 2 games without a point, and he hasn't. I don't think it's gotten to 3 yet this year. And not only does he not let it get to 3, he's in on all 3 goals and scores the overtime winner, the 18th of his National Hockey League career. So it was important. And Mark was one of those guys who was part of the push in the third period. Sean had a couple of glorious chances. One set up by Alex Iafallo, one on the jam play that again I texted you saying that it was one of those. It didn't look like much, and then all of a sudden they showed the replay, and Spencer Knight just did a great job of cozying up against the to the post, but Scheifele had a good chance, pushed it by him, but it just clanged the iron. So, Mark got free in space. We've talked about the Jets' struggles in overtime, Sean, losing 10 of the previous 11 games that went beyond regulation. But today, Mark Scheifele, gets lost in coverage coming off the bench in a line change. Cole Perfetti and Dylan Sandberg disrupt the play. Dylan Sandberg finds the trailer. Mark Scheifele buries it. But on a night where offense was hard to come by, Sean, until the 6-on-5 goal by Perfetti, that top line was easily the best line in terms of chance generation in the game. And Scheifele was the guy doing the bulk of the driving. And the other guy that really stood out to me on this evening was Dylan Sandberg, Sean. This was vintage Dylan Sandberg, vintage being last year's version. Not only did he have his first goal in almost a calendar year, he set up the overtime winner. Again, my view from on the small screen, he did an excellent job against Connor Bedard. People will say, oh, well, Bedard set up Ryan Green for the go-ahead goal. Well, yeah, that came against the Jets' third pairing. It didn't come against Dylan Sandberg. You notice Bedard out there, but I thought that Dylan Sandberg and Dylan DeMello, his new partner for the bulk of that game, did an excellent job, limiting the impact of Bedard, who obviously was still pretty noticeable.
It's a tricky game out there, I find, to kind of break down, because so much of it happens right at the end of it, and so little happened before then. But let's get to Cole Perfetti and just the idea of. So one of the questions that I'd asked is the Winnipeg Jets, a team that at the beginning of the year, you heard me say it, I didn't think they'd be the comeback team they were last year. They weren't, but they've been doing a pretty darn good facsimile of that team over the last little while, finding ways back into games. I mean, one of the reasons we're talking about them and some of the problems that they've had in overtime for so long is because they've been getting games to overtime. Yeah, they've been losing, but there's a lot of these games they've been getting to overtime that people should be looking and saying, that's a point earned kind of thing. And one of the things that I've found is, as the Jets have been finding a way, it seems to have coincided a little bit with Cole Perfetti, who, I gotta say this, say what you want about his lack of production this year. Say what you want about, him basically hard to argue that he didn't take a step back this year compared to how he played that before. But holy smokes, if you go back to the Manitoba Miracle and a night like tonight and all that we've been seeing from him quite often, this is a player that when the moment is at its biggest, he's definitely earned the right to find himself on the ice in these moments.
Yeah, no doubt, Sean. I mean, we know that last year there was a ton of debate about ice time and usage and all of those things, especially 5-on-5. And again, some of that's due to Ehlers also taking shorter shifts and all that jazz. But Perfetti, and for all the people yelling and saying that Perfetti should have been an 18-minute player at the start of the year when he came back, that's just not the way that it works. His body wasn't ready for minutes that were of that variety and of that volume, I guess, if you will. So. Again, very involved again today. Sean, he's been excellent coming out of the break, like we thought he would be. 3 shots on goal, 4 attempts, 1 takeaway, on for 2 goals for just another excellent game where he's involved, he's around it. The puck is following him around, and Sean, it's super interesting, right? So through 2 periods, I didn't have a ton of thoughts, but one of my thoughts was, now that Gabe Vilardi was moved back with Adam Lowry and Perfetti, I was actually thinking that it was a good time to try Perfetti in the 3rd period with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, because now Cole is driving play. His feet are moving. He's involved. He's more tenacious on the forecheck. He's winning board battles. Some of those things we noticed with him last year. And then lo and behold, there he is in 6-on-5 and getting a chance in overtime. He hasn't had a ton of chances to play in overtime. So I think it's a testament to him. We know how hard you have to work to come back from the high ankle sprain. And I know people hate hearing about it, but it's a fact. It's reality. It's one of the toughest injuries to come back from, especially for a player who's not a burner. So Cole's done a nice job to get his body back to where it needs to be for the stretch run. This month's going to be hard. 16 games in 30 days. So that's going to be challenging, but he's off to a fantastic start and really has given the Jets that secondary scoring at a time when they really need it. So it's been impressive to watch. What did you see in the building from him today? And what do you think of his response to your question also about
which one? I asked a whole
both.
bunch, Ken.
You did. I was listening.
I did the Ken Weeb carry.
Rapid fire. There
you go.
Some
yeah,
rapid
one
fire.
After the other. One after the other. He was barely ready for it. No, I think I'm seeing now. I don't know that I necessarily 100% agree with everyone. Someone had said here that the problem with the Jets this year was basically the high ankle sprain that Cole Perfetti suffered. I don't know if I would give that much weight, that much gravitas to it, Ken. But what I would say is playing the way that he did tonight, starting to resemble the player that he'd been before, or that we've seen him be before, gives you a little bit of maybe there is something to that entire thing. Now, I don't think that fixes everything with the Winnipeg Jets, but it may go a little bit further to explaining what has happened to Cole Perfetti this season. And okay. I've heard all this stuff about high ankle sprains before. I've never suffered one, Ken. Have you?
I did have a bad ankle injury. I don't know that it was ever specifically a high ankle sprain, but definitely came down on the ankle while playing in a high school basketball game on the weekend that our AAA team had a bye and missed the next playoff round. So and I know that it took a long time for it to get back to normal, I guess. So again,
it's not apples to apples, but I'll say this. I remember I used to hear about guys saying, oh, like with a groin injury, right? And that would keep them out of games. And I remember I used to think, like, what is with these guys, right? Groin injury, that's going to keep you out of a game. When I played, and then I got my first true groin injury, I could barely climb the stairs. Like it was, I at times needed, and I just moved into the city. I was living in the Wolseley area. And of course, we live in one of these side-by-sides that has like 4 stories to it. So to get to the kitchen, which was on the top floor, I remember one time having to get my brother-in-law come down and give me a hand getting up the stairs, right? So what I do know is usually when people talk about a specific injury and the problems that can come with that injury and how long it takes to get over that injury, I've learned to kind of defer and say, okay, there is something to this. So maybe we're just seeing the player come out of this. If so, what terrible timing to have the kind of injury that doesn't necessarily keep you out, but keeps you from being yourself. Because if that's what we're seeing here from Cole Perfetti, man, oh man, has it affected his next contract going forward, right? Because we've talked about it on this show, the idea of how do you lock down that next contract when this year looks like a step back compared to last year, or that last year for a space of time you stepped up. And then is that you playing above what you should be capable of? Like all those questions exist with Cole Perfetti because of this. The one thing I would say is if Cole Perfetti keeps playing like this down the stretch, then maybe you can at least make that case and say, guys, look, talk to the training staff, talk to the equipment guys. They'll tell you where I was when it came to this. What you saw from me at the end of the year, that's Cole Perfetti. Just like what you saw at the end of the year last year, that was Cole Perfetti. So if we want to start negotiating a contract, let's negotiate on that, because the one thing about where Cole Perfetti finds himself is deep enough into the Jets' control over him that if he doesn't find something with the Jets that makes sense, it could mean that could be a short contract and he could be looking to find his way out of Winnipeg. So he does have that to hold over the Jets, but I would say he needs to hold his play over them and needs to do it a little more often.
Yeah, I mean, the facts are Cole had a very slow start to the year after he came back. I mean, even with this recent stretch of 7 points in 7 games, he's got 8 goals and 22 points in 46 games, Sean. I mean, this was a guy we were expecting to take a big leap forward, even with the loss of Ehlers. We were thinking that Cole would be going from a 55-point player to a 65 or 70-point player. And he's not going to be anywhere close to those numbers, even with a glorious last quarter of the year. But for him, it's all about building towards next year. Of course, it's not great timing for a guy who needs a new deal as a pending RFA, but the way that he's playing now is, again, as you mentioned, I mean, that's how he's going to want to be getting the negotiation started, which again could make it a little bit tricky for sure. But for Cole's can't worry about that. He's got to worry about playing his best hockey, and that's what we expect. The contract negotiations will take care of themselves.
Okay. What do you think that he's found? And you touched on this a little bit more, but what do you think he's found alongside Adam Lowry?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this before, Sean. Last year Cole played well with Ehlers because he's a guy who can find the quiet zones. Ehlers is a guy that pushed back the defense. Now, playing with a guy like Adam Lowry, who is a battering ram at times, but also a really smart player. So those two guys are both, pretty cerebral players out there. I think they can, feed off one another. But I think the biggest thing for me, Sean, and we've talked about this all year long, and we talked about the importance of it when he was playing with Jonathan Taves. No matter who he was with, he needed to be a guy who was being assertive. He needed to look for his shot more. We know he's a great passer. He's got great vision, all of those things. He can find quiet space on the ice, but he needs to unload his shot more. And to me, he's being a lot more, he's taken on more of a shoot first mentality. So for me, that's what I'm seeing there. Adam Lowry's ability to get in on the forecheck is starting to come out a little bit more now that his hip is feeling better. So for me, I think that, that kind of combination of the hockey sense and ability to get to the right spot while also being more of a shoot first player who can also make plays, that to me is sort of the biggest thing that has stood out, right now with Cole's game.
Ken, I think you may be onto something, but sometimes, I doubt my ability to hold you accountable for these kind of things. And in situations like that, I just wish there was someone out there who could step in and hold you accountable. And I don't know that person exists.
I think there might be.
Or do they?
Dropping two bombs, dodging shot grenades. Move over, get someone else is at the buffet. Gonna make Renny shout and the show go overtime. Bring down the hammer.
Oh man, has it been a while since we've heard that banger? Here he is, ladies. Back on the beat, ready to kick butts and take names. Jeff Hamilton, asking questions. Good to have you back there, buddy. But more so, forget all this other stuff. Just good to have you back on the show. This is like our white whale that we used to have all the time. It's like, it's that catch and release. And we let you go, and we tagged you, and then you used to come on the show, and then you disappeared, and then now it's like
I ghosted you a bunch of times over the last couple of years. You know how it works.
Exactly.
It's just
exactly. But
there were rumors, scandals. Here we are, man. We've cleared the dust, and after a couple of years, I think we set the runway for me to return.
There you go. Well, now that you have, inquiring minds want to know.
Perfect timing,
we're gonna get you just. Not even specifically on what Ken was talking about. I think just an overarching thoughts like, okay, Hammy steps in. People have wanted to know at many different junctures what you've been thinking, but you get to walk in right now where the Jets find themselves, everything that's happened, the fall, the push, all the things that have happened, the different personnel, Jonathan Taves, Pearson, all these different kind of guys. And I guess just an overarching, and hey, the buffet is yours. What it takes is what it takes. But give us Jeff Hamilton's take of where the Jets are and how they got here and what Hammy thinks about it.
Yeah, I think it's like anybody. It's surprising to see them in this situation. I mean, look at Scott Arniel's comments after the game, right? He cannot believe with 20-something games remaining, he's watching the scoreboard, noting that Nashville lost tonight. You know what I mean? Just think about that for a second. With 20-something games, you have the head coach who, and before this, they never looked at the standings, right? Like when you're atop the standings, you don't talk about the standings, right? And anyone who asks you if you say no. So like, to me, this situation it's very perplexing, but at the same time, it's in some cases, I know this seems pretty convenient for me to say right now, it feels kind of like predictable, right? When you look at some of the moves in the offseason, when you look at the direction the league was going with, how fast teams are. Another comment that Scott Arniel made, I'll add it to the list of surprising things you'd hear him say at this juncture of the season, right? When you looked at last year. But the reality is the Jets just aren't a fast team, right? They're not that team. Like, they're not that team that's going to, so instead of dictating the pace of play, you're hearing things like you need to get over top this group, right? Like, you need to make sure that you contain them. And then the reality is that was what teams had to do with Winnipeg last season. So, this year has been obviously been a very challenging one for fans. Again, those expectations were sky high. This is supposed to be one of those years where the Jets, find themselves in a Stanley Cup contender window, and we're clearly not there. And I mean, being back in the room, and hearing the questions, it's like the reporters have decided that this team's not making the playoffs, and the team needs to kind of just smile and do their best to say the right things. But this year, to me, I mean, think about all the things that made the Jets dangerous in previous years, not just their speed, but their position, their checking. And, they had a team that was asked to do a lot, right? It was asked to do a lot game in and game out, right? In this, obviously different strategy, different, whatever, work under Paul Maurice, but almost the same level of ask, right? As far as like, we need you to be a complete player. We need you to be fast on the puck and dictate the game. And now it feels like this team just has a bunch of passengers, right? It's a bunch of guys like, there was a time, many times last year, you could look up and down the bench and say, who's going to get the job done? And now you look at the bench, and I understand the Jets are dealing with some injuries right now, of course, but who's going to do that? It's going to be one of like two people, Mark Scheifele or Kyle Connor. And this team has gone from being a dominant, complete team to being a team that kind of has one line. And when you only have one line and you're unable to generate offense, and you're unable to, at the same time do your responsibilities in the defensive zone, you're going to end up exactly where you are. So to me, I don't think the Jets are as bad as their record is, and they certainly have pieces. But when you look at some of the moves in the offseason last year and how it played out, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who were dissing those moves. I wasn't necessarily one of them. I wasn't praising them, but you kind of put some trust in a group that won the President's Trophy last year, and here you are, right? You're seeing some of the absolute gambles that this team took, pretty much blow up in their face.
So hold on a second. When you're talking about gambles, I want you to get into a little bit of specifics. Like, what happened to this team? They got slow, like you'd said. It's something we've been talking about on this show for a long time. Did they age into it a little bit? Is it very specifically the guys they lost? Is it very specifically the guys they brought in? Is it a mixture of the whole things? Where do you see this mix? Because that's the one thing that's fascinated about me, and I'd like your take on, or fascinated me about this, and I'd like your take on it, is just, and I've said this line over and over again, is the delicate ecosystem, how you could be a President's Trophy winning team, subtract 1, 2, 3 guys, bring in 1, 2, 3 guys, and all of a sudden find yourself in last place at Christmas time.
Well, the gambles are the off-season pickups, right? I mean, this team clearly misjudged the group in the sense that they felt all they needed was to bring in some of that veteran leadership to complement a core that they had finally, put trust into to be a winning team. But the problem is the guys that went out the door and the guys that came in was purely speed players out the door, slow players in. And I think I almost feel like Winnipeg's identity was scrappy, and they went and they picked up players who aren't scrappy. And so you ask me specifics about the gambles. Let's start with Jonathan Toews. And I don't want to pick on the guy, but I mean, this team, pretty much fell short of a parade to welcome him into this team to be, and I know, Sean, you love that signing, right? Like, a lot of people thought that signing was a good signing, but it was a massive gamble for a second line center, right? Like people said he would eventually get there. He's nothing close to a second line center. And so, and then there's the parts of like, I feel like the guys they picked up on top of it, it feels to me, and I don't know this to be true, but it feels to me that like, it's almost like they feel they owe these guys something, right? Like these veteran players, like when in reality, they owe these guys nothing. Like these guys, Gustav Nyquist, Tanner Pearson, like, those guys, like Luke Shen, like, I mean, to me, it's like you took these complementary pieces, Shen obviously from the run before, the year before, but it's just like they don't really fit the mix of guys. And to me, you're coinciding that with these slow, veteran players you're bringing in, and you're also asking a lot from the guys who are already in house. And we've talked about this, on Winnipeg Sports Talk lots of times, in the sense that like, how much more were you going to get from Nino Niederreiter? How much more were you expecting to get from Vlad Nemestikov, right? Like both of those players were playing outside of their contracts, and it was only a matter of time before Father Time caught up to them. And I'm not saying that like, they're bad players, but you're not like, you needed to get better, not worse. And when you lost Nikolai Ehlers, of course, that's a major speed part to this situation, of course. And you brought in slower players, you just kind of messed with it. And now I feel like you have a different setup, and you have the same expectations and strategy, and you just don't have like the Jets just aren't a good team. I mean, that's just what it kind of boils down to. They just don't have the horses to do what they want to do. And I think it took them too long to realize that. And now they're adapting to their game, and they're playing more, almost adapting to the other team's game to create like almost like a 2-1 win or something, or a low scoring affair. Because when this team goes off the tracks and tries to score, that's when they get beat up. So they feel like I feel like they've adjusted here. Sean, you asked about that, and and their ability to come back in games. It might just be asking less might be more in this case, asking them to be less of a hard, certain forechecking team and buzz around 200-foot players, and be more of a, strategic team, and try to play down the other club's strengths rather than playing up to your own.
Just before we kind of all jump in on all this, I'd like, so you've led to this. You said Jets just aren't a good team right now. Here's one of those times of year where traditionally the Jets have addressed these kind of things most often. UFA time of year is not very successful typically for the Winnipeg Jets. This is the time of year when players are in play, and the Jets have in the past been able to address and to bring guys in to the organization, or potentially send guys out. I want your thoughts on what Jeff Hamilton thinks the Jets should be doing heading into Friday.
I think you have to, I mean, what I think they should be doing and what I think they're capable of getting done.
How about I rapid
right?
fire you? How about I rapid fire you some stuff? Logan Stanley, what do they do with Logan Stanley?
It's funny. I talked to some of my friends, and I some of my hockey buddies who know the game well, and they all they think that $5 million is a good deal for Logan Stanley. They think with the cap going up to 90 million plus and growing, to me, look, the Jets know Logan Stanley better than anybody else. Okay, so whether if they trade him, okay, I think that's ideal. They've obviously been showcasing him here, putting him on the top power play, playing him
27-11 today.
Yeah, 27-11 was his ice time today. Exactly.
More than anybody out.
To me, it's like you're kind of seeing you're throwing him into the fire to showcase him to other teams, and maybe he's showing you that he's capable. Anyways, I find Logan Stanley to be a very difficult decision in the sense that we keep hearing he's going to get something. If you're getting a first-round pick for Logan Stanley, he should be out the door already, as far as I'm concerned, kind of do a redo. But if it's just kind of talk and you're not getting him, I guess it depends on what he wants. It's a bad first answer to your question, Sean, but you did give me the toughest, I think the toughest one of the group.
I started with the toughest one. So then let's go to the middle
The
guys.
one who really has value, you could say.
Yeah, what do you do with the likes of Shen, Nemestikov, Niederreiter? I know that's tricky right now with some of those players being out, but if everything were clear, what would you be looking at in this situation?
Like with Luke Shen, I'd be looking at I'd be hoping is the word. I'd be hoping for the same thing. I'd be hoping for Tanner Pearson's camp and for Gustav Nyquist's camp, that there's a team out there that knows these guys personally and thinks and believes that they're capable to being good in the mix of their club, because I don't think any of them have done really anything to make an argument to join a Stanley Cup contender, right? Like when you think about these players, all these Stanley Cup contending teams have players in-house who have been with them all year and earned it. Like, you're telling me any one of those guys, the Luke Schens, the Tanner Pearsons, or the Gustav Nyquist of the world are going to supplant your own in-house guys who have busted their ass? Like, that seems ridiculous to me. You mentioned Nino Niederreiter. Vlad too, obviously both of them not in the lineup. That's a challenging thing, but both have a year on their deals. Like, is there if it's not a playoff team, is there another team that might just want to take, again, know those players, like what they bring to the table? And I don't know. I don't really see it. I guess the other options here. Do you have another name here? Or should I just go into a kind of a bigger point that I was
going.
in?
I was
to me, I don't think it's
to get you started.
I don't think it's happening this trade deadline, but I think this team and this management needs to strongly consider a massive change. Like, you need to decide. Like, okay, you have Connor Hellebuck in net. Okay, obviously you want to keep him there. He gives you a shot every night. I know there's people rolling their eyes right now. A guy, he did get a win today, right? But, you have the pieces, but, like, you don't have a second line center. And Mark Scheifele, who's been playing great hockey, like, how much longer is he going to be a number one center for? And my point in this is, like, I just bring up the fear of, like, do you want to redo this for like a 6-7 years now? Because the vibe I get is, obviously, Kyle Connors of the world, Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, all these guys. And I'm not suggesting, trade these guys. These guys are great players, but I do think you need to consider what the makeup of your team is going to look like, because I feel like we're just going to go into like the second edition of the first edition, where the older veteran players grow out of their abilities to be the top end players, still have several years left on the deal, and they're still kings of the castle in the locker room, when I think it's kind of, this is the time, right? You need to usher in some youth. Now, the problem, of course, is the prospect pool isn't as good or, as they imagine. So that's a tough spot. You're not going to be trading for younger guys. So, but it feels like you're setting it just feels like a setup for failure in some ways. And that look at the St. Louis Blues, right? They're selling off guys. They're just, and I'm not selling it, but maybe there needs to be a shakeup. And again, I don't think that happens in the trade deadline, but we're talking UFA guys, and we're talking Nino Niederreiter and the Vlad Domestikovs. Like, those are the guys nobody wants. And I don't mean that to be, a jerk, but like the Jets aren't a team, especially at the trade deadline here. The Jets are no longer a team that players want to go to. Nobody wants to go, and it's not about the city. Nobody wants to go to a hockey team that's not going to make the playoffs. So I see this next months here to be a very challenging situation from Winnipeg to try to not only get rid of the players they have, but find new guys. And how do you find new guys? You trade some of the guys you like for whatever. So to me, it's a very weird time for the Winnipeg Jets, because this season has not gone to plan, and now you have the very, very, very difficult thought process of kind of being honest with yourself and deciding what this team is. And again, I'm not saying that it isn't Mark Scheifele, it isn't Kyle Connor, it isn't, Connor Hellebuck, it isn't Josh Morrissey. I'm not saying that, but you need to decide and really look at what you have here, because the window is slammed shut and you are not a Stanley Cup contender anymore. You are at best could rebound to be a playoff team. And is that good enough? I'm not sure. Obviously, there's lots of factors in play here. We all know that when Mark Scheifele signed an extension, surely when Kyle Connor signed an extension, and of course when Connor Hellebuck signed the extension, they all signed it on the understanding that this team was going to continue to spend and compete for Stanley Cup. So I almost feel, and it would be somewhat fitting, that like it almost feels like the Jets aren't like, when is it, at what point, if it keeps trending this way, do we see some of those players interested in going to a team that's going to compete? Now, that might be a little doom and gloom. I'm not trying to be too doom and gloom about it, but it's just like when you look at the decisions that have been made here and the situation they're in, I don't know how you're getting better with the guys that you've committed to.
I think you're just being truthful, and I think it's a good conversation to have about trying to grow, like trying to figure out how you grow in a situation where you don't seem to have what you want on the farm. Ken, I want your thoughts on at this stage now, this close to the trade deadline, where we're going. But first, I just wanted to say, talking about growth, you need to shoot for growth, but do so with Cambrian Wealth. Grow your wealth today to reach tomorrow's big goals. Cambrian's Wealth team can assist. Invest in your future self your way. Our pals at Cambrian Wealth give straight up investing advice you can actually understand and help you make a strong financial play. To get there, book an appointment at cambrian.mb.ca. Ken, you want to give Sweet Lou a shout out?
For sure. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact Lou Furlan at Roll LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
And just back to Cambrian for a quick second here. If you look up in your top left-hand corner on your screen there, that's a QR code that takes you to the Kenny and Renny page at Cambrian Credit Union. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I drew this myself with my paint set. I stole my kid's paint set, and I did this myself. So it would be rude of you not to scan this QR code just to see if it works. Folks,
it works. Jeff's got the proof right there.
It works,
Jeff's
baby.
got the
Works
proof
right there, baby. This works right there, baby.
Hand-drawn QR code. Check it out, folks. Go check it out. We're proud to have a web page.
Holy, 2026.
Proud as I am of my drawing.
2026,
anyway,
dude.
Ken, my guy, let me know where you think the Jets are at this stage with the trade deadline kind of looming, as they would say. Just a couple more days.
Yeah, I mean, to Jeff's point here, I think the Jets are in danger of, getting in the hot tub time machine, but going to 2019, where we all thought that the best days were on the horizon for the Jets, and all of a sudden flamed out late in the year, fell out of first place, lost in the first round, watched the team that beat them win the Stanley Cup final, and then, in succession, lost a couple key more pieces. Dustin Byfuglien, essentially retires, even though he never filed the paperwork. And all of a sudden, to Jeff's point, that the window didn't line up. They went from being a team that had established veterans, they had up-and-coming stars, and they had players on entry-level contracts. Right now, they've got all their established stars locked up, except for Josh Morrissey, who needs a new deal, and Dylan Sandberg will need a new deal, and secondary complementary player like Morgan Barron will need an extension with only 1 year left. But the core pieces and the key cogs are under contract, but they haven't done a good enough job of augmenting the talent and leveling up at a time where a lot of these other teams around them are not only locking up their stars, but bringing in guys like Mikko Rantanen, or bringing in guys like Marty Necas, if you're Colorado, or bringing in Brock Nelson. So, and the fix is not an easy one, as you mentioned, Sean. I mean, the Jets were shopping for a 2C heavily at last year's deadline, and they came up with two heart and soul players instead. So we know that, the in-house, I don't think there's, Braden Yager, we still think he can become a second line center, but it's not going to be next year. And to Jeff's point, next year, Mark Scheifele is 33, turning 34. And although he's done an excellent job of battling father time and has been his most productive in his last two seasons at a time when everyone said regression is naturally around the corner, that's why you need to be bringing in more talent to augment those guys, because they're essentially having excellent seasons that are not being wasted because they're doing their part, but they're not getting enough out of those excellent seasons. They didn't get enough out of Connor Hellebuck's Hart Trophy and Vezina winning season last year, beyond the regular season. So, I just would push back slightly to Jeff. Tanner Pearson, he may not unseat someone who's in the lineup, but he may have value as someone who has 7 even strength goals for a team that thinks they're going to play 20 to 25 playoff games. He can kill penalties. He's a big body. He has championship pedigree. I think that there's value there. I mean, you're not getting a second or a fourth back for him like you had to give up to get Luke Schenn, and you're probably not getting back what you got paid for Brandon Tanev. But I do see there being some value there. In terms of Nemestikov, I wonder about the Columbus Blue Jackets, boys. Rick Bowness is a big Vlad Nemestikov fan. He's got his team kind of hanging around the periphery in the Eastern Conference. Again, it kind of depend on how long he's going to be out. Niederreiter, I think, is more long term in terms of his situation. But to Jeff's point, I mean, if you're a team like, again, he's played for a bunch of different teams, but I mean, Carolina is a place where he was super popular. I don't think the Minnesota Wild could fit his salary, but I mean, I don't know, maybe Carolina, what do we always say about Carolina? They don't score enough. So maybe they think he could be he's not a burner, but they got enough fast guys. Maybe he's a guy that gets his nose dirty, gets to the net, can play on the second power play.
Not to cut you off,
all of those
Kenny, but did you see the report on Nino Niederreiter? And I know the internet is not always the most reliable of places, but there's like a Swiss article that like Nino's agent or Nino himself talks about being done for the year.
Done for 4 to 6 or something like that.
Yeah, like he'll be back in time for like the I forget what it said.
Which Neil pushed back on, right, Ken?
No, I mean, I haven't talked to Scott since the report came out. So
okay, I had thought that had someone asked him about it.
No, the article came out after. So the question was asked. The question was asked. He and I mean, I'm not trying to be in his head, but maybe like the idea of wanting to trade or whatever, he didn't want to rule him out for the rest of the season. And then the article came out like a day or two later. That was like,
I think,
and it wasn't like a fake article. It was like him saying, like I'm done for the year and getting ready for, he's had knee issues apparently or something or whatever. I forget exactly. I think it was knee. Anyways, it said he was done.
I think he got his knee cleaned up. I don't know the severity, and I don't know.
Cleaned up. Exactly.
The timing. We'll have to see how it kind of unfolds. Either way, again, the Jets need to get more talent in here, right? I mean, whether that's incorporating some of their younger guys. I mean, again, it would be abnormal for Kevin He to jump right into the NHL guys, right? But he has, again, some of the qualities they're lacking. Big, lots of speed, maybe some secondary scoring. But I think, as a general rule, they want those guys getting at least a year in the American Hockey League.
Well,
so he would have to blow
away.
The doors off. He would have to blow
away,
the doors off at camp. So
we're talking about a kid that's years away. It's fine that he's doing well at the WHL level. We've seen what happens when you're a 19-year-old or 20-year-old who's doing it up at that level. That's just how things go. He's years away. To the degree that, to Jeff's point, he doesn't necessarily fit this timeline. Now, there's just a couple of things I wanted to touch on here. Ball hockey, when both you guys were talking about, Mark Scheifele said 55 will age well. Ball hockey, this is exactly what was said about Blake Wheeler at the same age when he was around 33 years old. And everyone talked about how well he took care of his body, which was a point that you were making, and how much nutrition and all these kind of things. Blake Wheeler was the exact same conversation at the age of 33. And by age 35, it was done. When it happens well. You can believe that Mark Scheifele is, the only guy in the league who's taking care of himself to this degree, or you can kind of understand that the vast majority of guys take care of themselves in a fairly similar manner. A lot of the top end guys, you'll hear the same thing over and over again about the top level guys. Father Time wins all battles. He's going to win it with Mark Scheifele. You may be right. You may be right that until he's 40, he plays at this level. He's sure outlasting a lot of the other guys that are the same age as him. But when it happens fast. And I would suggest and this is maybe a little bit of a precursor to Game 20. We're 2 games away from it. I'm going to drop my big architectural plan of what the Winnipeg Jets should do based on what's coming down the pipe here. But hey, you'd be best to make a move on a guy and get back something that is going to last long term. And hey, if he goes on for another 6, 7, 8 years and does great things for other teams, fine. But this exact same conversation was happening about Blake Wheeler, and when the bottom fell out, it absolutely fell out. I just wanted to, before I finish up on the trade stuff, Magic Johnson has got the Flame and Comfort hot take of the game where he says 2 points closer to the mushy middle. It's fascinating because this is just a night where the Jets gain ground on the teams that, if they pass them, is probably going to worsen their draft situation here, and they're not making up ground on the teams that they need to get to the playoffs. So I think that this is a really good comment by Magic Johnson, who gets the Flame and Comfort hot take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort has moved to 1465 St. James Street. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort, and they will take care of it for you. I'm
Quickly,
leaning
though.
towards Jeff. What's that?
I mean, mushy middle, the Jets are still 27th and like 6 points or 7 points out of 22nd, which is kind of more where the mushy middle is it not? 27th is still...
Well, the higher you get to the 10th overall pick, there was an interesting one that I saw. There's like when the draft is happening, they give you all this draft literature,
Yep.
and they tell you about like some of the notable picks that have been picked at like the 3rd overall pick, the 4th overall pick, so on and so forth. And there's, I think, 2 in there, like the 9th overall pick maybe, and like the 6th overall pick that has like not the 6th overall pick, but has a really unimpressive track record, which usually means that in that 5 to 10 area, there's almost always misses. There's almost always swings and misses from 5 to 10. And that's where the Jets are very likely going to end up, especially if they keep playing like this. They've got 6 out of their last 8 points. They're at 750 point production since the trade deadline. It's not getting them anywhere but closer to the likes of, the Nashville Predators, or maybe the San Jose Sharks, although it looks like the San Jose Sharks may pull one off here tonight. But it's the one thing that I find interesting, and Jeff, you were in there, Mark Scheifele talking about how they're just going to keep pushing and see where it takes them. But boy, oh boy, if I'm a Jets fan, if I'm a pure Jets fan and I'm watching this and I see the Jets push and push and push and play better and get closer and closer to the playoff line and then not make it there, but pass 8 teams on the way to that push, now all of a sudden you're just in the position you were, around the position where you drafted Cole Perfetti a number of years ago, right? Like, it's hard to make things happen. They've done it in the past, but it's hard to get the kind of... Someone had made the point earlier on, wow, it's fun watching the likes of Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini and all this kind of stuff. Well, those guys you get with the number 1 first overall pick. That's what you get. You know what I mean? And it's starting to look like Gavin McKenna is finding his feet. Ken, I'm starting to shift in my thinking based on what we were talking about after.
Don't say.
It feels like he's finding things. At the time that we had that conversation, I thought Stenberg was ahead. I think that we're seeing a little bit of a change. Anyways, to get back into close out, to make sure we get everything done with the trade deadline, I'm leaning towards I think Jeff made a really, really good point. Everyone's talking about the Jets should sell. The issue that I think Jeff very astutely brought up was that what are you going to get back for these players? Like, the Jets could sell, but what are they going to get in return? Like, what is going to be paid for a Tanner Pearson? Is it a 6th round pick? Is it a 5th round pick? Like, what are we looking at here? And if you do move out, and I do believe that they will move out Shen before it's all said and done, but you moved him out for a 2nd round pick. What are you going to get in return? Is it a 4th? Is it a 5th? The way things are going right now, if I'm a team, do I really want to take on Vlad Nemestikov for playoff depth, but then carry him on my roster for another year? Same thing with Nino Niederreiter. Like, I actually think Jeff makes a really good point in that I don't necessarily know that that if you're going to the flea market to check out what the Jets have laid out, if they're going to be very hot items that a lot of people want to get outside of Logan Stanley, which is why Jeff said that's the hardest one. I think Logan Stanley is the prize pick for the Winnipeg Jets that they got to get something done with. You know my thoughts on this, Ken. I think he's gone. Yep. I think they have to make the move on that player. Good on them to get the minutes in, to get him showcased in that way. I think he's shown well in a game like tonight where you want to make it, the Jets looked for the longest time like they're trying to win this game 0-0. He showed well in a low scoring game. But the tricky part, as much as Winnipeg Jets fans would want the Jets to just open the doors and just move everything out, if you do move them out, it's a whole bunch of holes in your lineup for next year that may be tricky to fill, and you may be filling them with players who aren't ready yet. But if the price that you get back for that is a bunch of late round picks, man, that gets tricky. That gets tricky for the Winnipeg Jets to be put in a position where they're trying to find NHLers after they moved NHLers out for really not that much in return. Anyways, that's my take. That's Jeff's take. That's Ken's take. That's the all-around look at this. Just like the fine folks at Myers Drugs have you covered all around the city of Winnipeg, because as you know, they deliver all around the city of Winnipeg. So if you have any pharmaceutical needs, if you have any supplemental needs, health food needs, go check them out or have them come to you, folks. Okay, time for us to move to the Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game. I think this is the most depth we've had in this category in maybe ever on this show. Jeff, I'd like your take on what you thought.
No, don't go to me first. You seem to have a thousand ideas. What do you mean?
But then I may take them all. Do you want me to go first, guys?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I'll go first. I think there's 4. I think there's 4 Johnston Group Got You Covered that I can barely figure it out. So the first is Logan Stanley. There's a point in that game where a puck gets chipped past him, and if it gets fully past him, it's a 2-on-0. He bats
on the
down,
power play. Power play.
Brilliant play by Logan Stanley. Second, it's going to be Dylan Samberg at the end of the game, who makes a play like Mark Scheifele had said. I think it was to your question, Jeff. He was expecting to get on the ice and be trying to skate back and try and defend or catch a guy who is on a breakaway. Doesn't happen because of, again, another great stick by a defenseman, Dylan Samberg, who ends up turning that into the game-winning goal. So that's a great Got You Covered. And then 2 by one player, and it's Jonathan Toews with 2 unbelievably clean face-off wins. One of them leading to the play right before the Jets go out and score. He wins it clean and then goes out and does it again right afterwards. Starts that play. It's in the back of the net. That does not happen if you don't have a guy who can go out and win that as cleanly as he does. 4, count them, 4 Johnston Group Got You Covered plays of the game. You guys let me know if there's more.
You forgot your original. One. You said Davis Payne for drawing up the tying play.
Oh, there you have 5th. There you go, Davis Payne. That was the one I threw out there. Davis Payne, who draws up the play for it. Everyone's got it covered. 5 plays.
Yeah, I would say this, and Sean, mine's Sean Reynolds for having us covered on the Got You Covered Johnston Group section. Is you got me covered. You got me covered with some, not just 4, but an extra one with Kenny, 5.
Well, make it 6 for Kenny, who has me covered on the one that I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kenny also gets it. Johnston's Group's throwing out Got You Covered all over the place.
I'm not just sitting here in the Delta Lounge, kicking back.
Everything's happening. Everything's happening. Yeah. Is that Ken? Was yours the one that you had covered for me?
Yeah. That's
okay. Well, there you go. Hey, folks, do you run a small business in Canada? You need to look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. I do think on this night that was an extremely important. That award is important on a night like tonight, because in a game like this that was as close as it was, all those little moments are moments that could have turned against the Jets. So the fact that they come out with that game, I think they come out with that game because there's a whole bunch of players invested in winning the Johnston Group Got You Covered award. Hey, guys, or I guess our last one here, the keg save of the game. Do you want to start with this one, Hammy, or do you want me to go with keg?
Yeah, so there's one moment in the game, I got to look it up. Connor Help. So I forget who it was. I'm trying to think of who it was. Connor Help, I thought was big in certain moments in this game. He only had 18 saves, but he stopped a breakaway. And that's who I'm wondering. I forget who the breakaway was against. It was I believe it was the second period. So yeah, not a great selection by me, but he only had 18 saves. So I'm going with a breakaway in the second period by an unknown player. I believe it was 95. Wasn't 98, obviously. Mikheyev.
Okay. Ken, what do you got?
I don't know, something on Bedard there. I think Hellebuck on Bedard, I think. But honorable mention again, I think Spencer Knight absolutely robbed Scheifele in the play by Alex Iafallo after Alex got the promotion in the third period. Kind of got the
you're talking about the one on the
doorstep
off the post.
No, not that one. The one on the doorstep earlier, like 2 shifts earlier. It didn't look. It was Knight's version of Hellebuck's big and boring.
Okay.
Really
But it
good
was a
chance
rocket.
from the slot. Oh yeah, from the high slot. It was a beautiful,
Rock-
beautiful save.
There's no wrong answer in this category, but let me say you're both wrong. It's the one that you were talking about before, Ken, the one where he seals off the post.
Sure.
Mark Scheifele is down there and has all of his might trying to jam that puck in. For him to hold the post the way that he does with his pad, I don't know how he did that. Like that is a level of strength that I was kind of blown away by, for him to seal off the post. And like, if you look at the replay, that puck may have just crossed the line. I don't think it does, but the fact that he didn't just push his pad right into the net is a crazy level of strength by Spencer Knight, and we're well worthy of the hashtag the Keg Save of the Game. Although it doesn't matter what we think, matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the Keg Save of the Game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our winner from our last show. And that winner in the comments section of the YouTube page is Son of a Pie. Son of a Pie is in pie, like the 3.14, blah, 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 the mathematical number. Son of a pie, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I'll have the fine folks at the Keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Gentlemen, anything to say before we shut this down? You got
Not a whole lot left.
I
I still got a little bit of a window, but I can't go the real overtime, even though Hammer's here. Without
All right.
it's going to get in the way of the milk run here. I got the Reynolds
wondering-
milk run coming. I got the Reynolds milk run on the horizon here.
Deserved.
I'm-
You've been,
Yeah,
you know
well
what?
deserved,
I
yes.
think things have turned
No.
because my flights have been going great lately and yours have been falling apart. So I think I
Kidding.
pushed the curse on to you.
Yeah.
There's some kind of movie that
You
like,
had
I
me
handed
covered.
the box.
Yeah, you got me
I
covered.
handed the
Yeah.
box over to you, and I sacrificed you for me, and I couldn't be happier.
So what do you guys think is the final thing? What do you think? Because this, I mean, obviously this is a big stretch here. 8 games at home. What do you think these guys do? What do you think these guys, and big test against Tampa on Thursday. What are your predictions for this season-long homestand? And do you think we're going to ever see Connor Hellebuyck in front of a microphone during that 8 days?
Well, yeah, I guess tomorrow's to me, the Jets have like really weighted this out to the point that there will just be no oxygen left to that story by the time we talk to Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, guys, you can tell me what you thought about. Sorry, Ken, you weren't in the building, but Jeff, you can tell me what you thought about the crowd's reaction to Connor Hellebuyck. I think that says a lot about where the fans are with him. What did you think?
Like, what did I think about the reaction? I thought it was. I don't know. It seemed strategic to announce Connor Hellebuyck and Kyle Connor in the same group,
Super
right? So it felt like to me personally, like if I'm being fully honest, it felt like a mix of both. No, it felt like there was cheer, but there was mostly cheers. Did you think there was cheers? Jeers?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't sound. See, this is why it's tricky.
This is it was competing. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't boisterous.
But they were announcing the 2 guys who broke everyone's hearts, right? Like the 2 guys.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah.
So
are they going to cheer?
It's
Yeah,
hard
exactly.
to say that had anything to do with Connor Hellebuyck. And to your point,
So, agreed. I didn't think it.
They were smart to say, and the 2 gold medal winners, Kyle Connor and
But
Connor
here's the
Hellebuyck,
thing.
right?
I don't think even
Kyle Connor first. Even saying Kyle Connor first, because it's like you lead with the guy. So if people start booing, it almost seems like you're booing Connor. To be honest, I think this is a bit of a moot point. I don't think inside the building you're ever really going to find fans that boo. Like, remember I said this. Remember last year when Connor Hellebuyck was playing terrible in that first round series against St. Louis? Every single time he came back to Winnipeg and was playing poorly, what was he greeted with? When they announced his name,
MVP
boisterous,
chants, buddy.
loud MVP chants. Like, this is not there's a whole bunch of people online who were ripping on Connor Hellebuyck about how he was playing and how he was letting the Jets down. Like the online world was absolutely tearing after the guy, but inside that building, there's nothing but support. I wouldn't expect anything else. Neither is a very accurate barometer. It's going to be too rosy inside the building, and it's going to be too negative, in the social media world. I think people are a little bit frustrated by it. I think, when you've got like a president that attacks your country and you see your goaltender kind of going and, being I don't want to go down that direction, but going and jumping in and rubbing shoulders with that person, it rubs people the wrong way. We've talked about this already, but I think it's going to be give credit to the Winnipeg Jets as an organization, having him sit down and address things with Sarah Orlesky, but not get to the point where he addresses it with the media until this is so far gone that everyone's kind of forgot about it. I think they've done a good job of insulating their guy and keeping him from, feeling whatever heat may have been out there.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any pats on the back for that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I'm just saying,
great job. Yeah, like we don't get to talk.
No, that's not. He's not asking
their job, Jeff. That's their job. Like that is their job. You have to do I like it? Do I think that maybe that?
Sorry, Sean. Did they nail the whole wait them out and maybe this will all go away?
Yes.
Absolutely,
killed it.
Yes,
they nailed it.
Nailed it.
Their
10
job,
out of 10. 10 out of 10.
to come out and insulate him and protect him from the outside world. They did exactly that. Anyways, I'm not saying I love it.
Kudos.
Anyways, that's it. Okay, we should shut this down. I usually don't have a lot to say, but I will say it is unbelievable and amazing to have Jeff back on the show, and I'm hoping there's a whole bunch more of these in our future. You're always welcome back anytime there, Jeff.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really did appreciate it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ken, did you want to say thanks for having us on? Or
thanks for having me on too, Sean.
Yeah, good to see you. Other than that,
good to see Hammy also. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Got to have him on the show. That way I can talk to him. It's good.
Best show in the province. Let's go.
Before a big game against the Tampa Bay. Before that,
Lightning got smoked too.
The conversation happening in these spaces, we would implore you to appreciate the contributions by our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Jim Pattison Toyota on Region, Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, Myers Drugs, the fine folks at the Keg, and of course the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnson Group. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. We will pick this up and do it all over again on Thursday. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.